Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Flicks Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today, we have Netflix's 76th film. It's the 2018 drama First Match, directed by Olivia Newman, stars Elvire Emmanuel, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Colman Domingo, Jharrel, Jerome, and Kemp. And as usual, I am here with my co-host, MJ.
How are you, mate?
Good. How are you?
I'm very, very well. We've kind of got a bit of a sports film here. I'm going to call it a sports film, so
okay, good.
I'm happy with that. I don't think we've really had a sports film in the first 75 films.
That is probably a very good call.
I'm just saying this on the spot right now. I'm trying to rack my brain.
No, that's fair.
I don't think we've had one.
Very fair. I think we've got a few to come up. There's a film called Amateur at some stage.
Okay.
There's High Flying Bird by Steven Soderbergh at some stage as well.
Feels like it's a while away, that one.
Sure, yeah, probably. I love Soderbergh. So.
You could argue that Paddleton is kind of a bit of sport. No, I'm joking.
No?
Not
Okay.
really.
You got me.
Well,
right.
they play Paddleton in it, which is a game that they make up, but there's a lot more about death.
Spoiler alert. All right, so...
No, it's no plot.
Okay. I haven't seen that, so that's all right.
It's good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, we start our show with our Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of the film. MJ, give me a Fast Flicks.
Fast Flicks. So this is for First Match. A down-and-out 16-year-old girl who bounces from foster home to foster home joins the male high school wrestling team in an attempt to reconnect with her criminal father, but ends up discovering the drive and direction her life had been craving.
That is very IMDb. That's good. I like that.
It was a bit longer than I normally do, but there's a lot of elements there that I felt would be remiss if I didn't mention them. Yeah. Yours is going to be about 4 words now, isn't it?
I was like, you've touched on a lot of stuff that I haven't in mine, and I'm like a little bit worried. Mine is the lengths a kid will go to for her dad.
Mm.
And I know it's a lot more than that.
There's more than that, yeah.
Based on what you've just said, a lot more, and I feel stupid with mine now.
No, I just, the stuff that, I don't normally like doing a long one, but I'm like, no, this is important, this is important. As I said, if someone stops me in the street and says, MJ, what's First Match about? There's things that I wouldn't need to mention.
I liked it. It was good.
Thank you, mate.
We start our show with what we've learnt about the film before we talk about it as well. So what are some things that you've learnt about this one?
Well, Olivia Newman, the director, made a short film in 2010 called First Match, which was basically the brainchild of what this feature ended up becoming.
Did you watch the short film?
No, where was it available?
It was quite easily available online.
I didn't even look.
And it's 14 minutes.
14?
And she called it... So Newman called the short a sports movie.
Did you watch it?
I did.
Oh,
I did.
Good.
So she called it a sports movie within a personal narrative rather than the other way around. And I like that.
Okay.
I like that. And, I mean, like, you can see... It is literally a mini version of this film with some character changes. So the dad in this seemed a bit more supportive in the short film than in the feature. But yeah, like very, very, like a lot of similar shots, like the dad like sort of in an alley putting rubbish out. Like the wrestling shots were all shot the same sort of way. So it was cool to sort of see where this had come from or developed from.
Well, that's the interesting thing was, I think, when Olivia made the short film, she wasn't necessarily planning to make a feature off the back of it, but it kind of grew and grew, and from what I can gather, the girl who played Mo in the short film, whose name is Nyasa Baka, who was a wrestler from Brownsville, she became friends with Olivia, and Olivia got to know her and some of the girls who were also on that wrestling team, and that really kind of informed the script for the feature film. Off the back of a lot of stories that were shared about them living in Brownsville, the experiences of being a young girl wrestler, living in foster care, and all these ideas kind of came about from that relationship that she had with a wrestler actor from her short film, really. The
short film on Letterboxd. How many people do you reckon have watched this?
100.
5.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be at 6th. I will log it that I've watched it, but yeah, it's not a lot of people on Letterboxd that have seen this.
Well, it's also probably not. No, I think wasn't it? It was part of her thesis or something.
It was, yeah.
She was doing it at film school, so it wasn't like.
It looks like it holds up as any type of short film that looks like it has a good budget. Like it's very aesthetically pleasing.
Well, I think that's probably a nice thing about this, about First Match, the feature as well. Like it looks for someone who I know we get into the director later, but someone who's basically directing her first feature film and her first writing credit, it certainly doesn't look like she's a novice.
Yeah. So the director was Olivia. When she was filming it, she knew the conclusion to the film wasn't working. Did you read about this?
No, I don't know if I did.
So the problem was that she'd figured this out on the day they were actually shooting the finale.
No.
Yeah, so they're shooting the finale and she goes, okay, I don't
Spoiler
like this.
alert.
Spoiler alert.
If you haven't seen First Match, give it a watch and then have a listen to us, because probably from now on in, there'll be some pretty significant spoilers.
So she's ready to film the last shot of the film, big moment, and she's called this the worst day of production as a director. And the change was that the moment was added in where the main character, Mo, gets back on the bus and then changes their mind and gets off.
Okay.
So she didn't, so this was all done, and she's like, I've got a limited amount of time. I can only let the bus go around the block a couple of times.
So the idea was that Mo doesn't get on the bus. Is that what you're saying?
Gets back on the bus and changes their mind and gets off. So she got on the bus and just sort of left without going back to the dad.
So she didn't have the same wish. So she was still leaving.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she said goodbye, like walked off on the dad, got on the bus and left, whereas she added in that extra sort of scene.
I love you, give him a hug. Well, that's one of my favourite scenes.
Yeah.
So I'm glad she did it. Well done, Olivia Newman.
Yeah, but a tough day at the office.
Yeah, well, that's a really important part of the film, I reckon.
What else you got?
Well, it was shot in Brownsville, in New York, in 2016. And
Part of Brooklyn, is that?
Well, sorry, Brooklyn.
Brooklyn,
yeah. Elvire Emmanuel did 5 weeks of wrestling training prior to shooting, which holds up. Like, not that I'm a wrestling connoisseur, but she seemed to know what she was doing. Yeah. And they used real student wrestlers as a lot of their extras as well. And it was really important for Olivia Newman to ensure that there was some sort of authenticity to the way A, the wrestling was done, but B, the way that they interacted as a team. And I think there are a lot of things on the bus where they were sort of mucking around and playing around that was all just the way that they would normally do it, and that was pretty important.
It's good. So this debuted at South by Southwest.
It did, yeah.
On the 12th of March 2018, and then hit Netflix on the 30th of March, so a couple of weeks later.
Yep.
Again, this is another outlier. Sweden got it 2 days later on Netflix. Don't know why.
Sweden.
Yeah, don't know why, but they did. And it won a couple of awards.
It did, yay.
So it won the Audience Award at South by Southwest for the narrative feature and the Game Changer Award for Olivia Newman as the director. It was also nominated for the Grand Jury Award.
I'm happy with that. Well done.
Yeah, very nice. I had a Netflix percentage match for this one.
So did I.
Ooh. What did you have?
60.
Oh, very low.
What was yours?
83.
You know why? Did you click like for Burning Sands and Imperial Dreams? And...
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, so 83%. So I was
83 is high for you.
Very high for me. It's very high. Yeah, interesting. What about the consensus?
Pretty good.
Positive?
To be honest, there's not a heap of ratings for this film. It's got a 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb, which is a good score, off 1,600 ratings.
Yep.
And a 3.3 out of 5, which is a really good score, on Letterboxd, 800 ratings. So on the smaller side, but if you got 800 people saying that they like it, then that's enough of a voice. But I reckon Netflix would have liked a few more eyeballs on this one.
Yeah. Well, Google users were very positive on this one.
Understandably.
92%.
Oh, Google.
Better than The Irishman.
Yeah, Irishman. I think The Irishman's the lowest one we've had so far.
So Google users like this one. Rotten Tomatoes. It's 84% on 19 reviews.
19?
So, and it didn't
South by Southwest. Yeah.
Didn't have a consensus on 19, but 84%. So
don't understand what constitutes a consensus, because sometimes I feel like there's a consensus for 7. But...
Yeah, don't know. The audience had it at 80% on 180 ratings. So very similar.
Positive. People like this film.
They do.
So did you like this film, Jesse?
So this is our time for our early thoughts. Did I like this film? I struggled at times with this one.
Yep.
But I really enjoyed it.
Yep.
And I know that's like a completely weird thing to say where I struggled, but I enjoyed it.
It's that kind of film, yeah.
It was. The story was good. The acting was good. The connections I had with it were good. But I did struggle at times. And I don't know why. But yeah.
Well, maybe we're going to unpack that.
Maybe, yeah. That's where I'm at. What about you?
Well, as you probably know, the ghetto poverty project stuff is something I generally do struggle with. It's just really grim a lot of the time. It never resonates with me. And we've had 3 films in the past year, being Burning Sands, Roxanne, and Imperial Dreams, which I just couldn't connect with any of them. But I like this. I think it's a sports film, as I said, as much as anything. But the character struggles and the character motivations were really well presented and really well justified. And I think the main thing was that it had enough characters who were really positive influences, which sometimes is what the other movies are missing.
Okay.
And finally, it had a bit of a Coach Carter feel to it. And I love Coach Carter. As much as it's got a bit of cheese to it, Coach Carter is a really good sports film for me. So this film did a lot right.
Good. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing some positive thoughts on this one.
I'm looking forward to unpacking on where you struggled. Nothing worse than not knowing why you struggled.
Yeah.
So
well, that's where I'm at. So hopefully we can get there.
We'll figure it out.
This is where we have a look at some characters. I think we start with Mo.
We must.
Monique, was it? Was it Monique?
Monique, yeah.
Monique, yeah.
Monique, yeah.
I'm going to refer to her as Mo.
Yeah, me too.
It's the easiest way to do it, I think. I found her as a very vulnerable character.
Yeah.
And it starts off that she thinks like the be all and end all is about her dad. So obviously mum's passed away and she seems to have always been let down by everyone. So she has this idea that her father's going to be that person that isn't going to let her down. And as an audience, you work out pretty quickly, I think, that it's maybe not necessarily going to be the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, it was sad that he didn't tell her that he was out of jail. And that was the first sort of thing for me, was that the first time she sees him, he's working and she's like, "You're out.
What are you doing here?
What are you doing here?" And it sort of highlighted that she's just always had to fight for herself. From a kid, you see this in the school corridors at school, but she just wants that connection with her dad. Like the first time he rocks up to one of her wrestling matches and, he like makes just a small little comment about, lift the head or whatever it was.
Yeah, lift the head.
Right, and bang, she's like, "Oh, okay, I'll listen to dad, then everything's going to be okay. I'll be fine."
Which is really understandable, right? Like someone who's never really had this parental figure, but her dad, and we'll get to him in a sec, because he's not necessarily a really bad guy. So you can understand how she glorifies him and sees the good in him and just craves that idea of having this stable dad.
And constantly stands up for him. Constantly.
Like you wouldn't imagine.
Yeah, comes up with stories, all sorts of stuff just to protect him.
Her dad is her hero. And I think that, again, comes from someone who really hasn't had a parental figure. You can understand how he would have lied to her about the things that he's done aren't as bad as they seem and will come good. And he's like that, right? Like, you do believe him when he says this kind of stuff. But I like the fact that they set Mo up as someone who... she's got this abrasive personality. She hasn't got many friends at school. She's got no drive. She's got no prospects. And then wrestling comes into the picture. And yes, it was inspired by the idea of trying to get her dad to show more interest in her life. But wrestling gave her that drive and that motivation. And that sense of purpose that eventually became a source of her making something of herself, which is something that she never even considered, right?
Yeah.
But she still never could see herself as making something of herself without her dad's support. And I do like the idea, because they set it up nicely, that she had to hit rock bottom one more time to finally understand that her dad didn't have her best interests at heart, and finally see the people in her life that actually were there to help her succeed.
And that diary was a really good visual cue of her finally ready to
hand over the bat.
Hand over it, work out that, okay, that's it, Dad. You've blown it.
There were so many little things, and even like holding hands with Lucilla and all these little things that were like, hey, Mo, like they're all here. Like you can really make something of yourself. And just that whole journey that she went on, it really worked for me.
You mentioned there was the Spanish speaking foster lady.
Yes.
The Hispanic lady. What was her character? What was her name? Lucilla.
Lucilla.
She was my favourite character
in
this film.
Slow burn with her.
It was, but it wasn't. Like, the whole time, as an audience, you knew that this was the sort of person that Mo needed. This is the sort of person that she needed. Someone who doesn't she knows that she's stolen her earrings, doesn't have a massive go at her. She prays for her. She is worried when she's bruised. Like, you see this throughout the film, and it's been like right from the start compared to the opening scene where you see her being kicked out. All her belongings being thrown at her. Yeah, screaming at her. And I liked throughout the film that it was like, Mo was rude to her. She was treated her really poorly throughout. But me watching her, it was almost like I could see it in Mo's eyes that she knows that she needs her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, you know, even, like this lady's like texting her like, "Are you okay?" sort of thing, and like even though Mo was poor to it, like I could just see it in her eyes that she knows.
Yeah. Well, that was that parental figure that she was craving,
yeah.
and it was there when she didn't even know it. Because Lucilla, they do set it up nicely to make you think that they don't get on. And Lucilla will take an opportunity to get rid of Mo if she could. That's what you think. Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I didn't the whole time because I always saw her at school at the principal's office. Whenever anything happened, she was always there. Like I never thought that anything was too hard for her.
When she rolled into wrestling that time,
Yep.
that really warmed my heart.
Yep.
I'm like, what? She's taking a genuine interest in something that she doesn't necessarily agree with, but she can see the positive impact that it has on you.
Yep.
That's when she really became more of a character for me, because before that, I saw her as very background, but you picked it up really nicely there.
Yeah. And you know, that, like you mentioned, that holding hand scene, like that was just, even just seeing her like carry the bag out for the kid that was being taken away.
Well, the way that was cut as well was you assume that Mo's been kicked out, and that was really clever.
Yeah, so I was switched on with this one.
You did well, yeah.
I didn't think that was happening.
Very nicely done.
Yeah. Okay, who have you got next? What are the characters?
Well, we sort of started talking about Daryl before,
sure.
So that's
Dad.
her father. I actually think he was pretty multi-dimensional. There was a lot of layers to this character, and to his credit, it's my belief that he didn't tell Mo about him being out of jail because he didn't want to continue to be that bad influence on her, as opposed to him just being a deadbeat dad who was going to ignore her. I think he was just, in his head, he's like, there's nothing I can do for this girl. It's better if I don't exist.
I 100% agree with you, because from that opening scene, he had no intention to me of being there for her. And that was, there was a line where he goes, you know, you're a grown woman, you do your thing, I do mine. That was the first thing we hear from him. And I didn't feel like that had changed throughout the whole time.
Yeah, and I agree. And I don't think that was his way of being like, this girl is just a burden to me. I think it was just like, she's better off without me.
Yep.
Which is the right sentiment, all right?
Yeah.
And I like the fact that he took a genuine interest in her wrestling at the start, and training her was like a real proper father-daughter bonding experience. I also believe that the idea of fighting her in that underground fighting tournament wasn't his plan from the beginning.
Okay.
I don't think it was. But it was an opportunity that popped into his head, and this guy notoriously makes bad choices. He's stuck in this crime rut, this crime world. He doesn't know any different, and he loses sight of being a father when he's tempted with the opportunity to make easy money. Yep. And that's the character that we know, and that's the character Mo knows as well.
Good take.
But he's like a drug to her. Like, she is addicted to the idea of having a perfect dad, and anyone from the outside can see he is the furthest thing from it.
I got the impression too. Did you he was very sweaty throughout the film?
He was, wasn't he?
To me, I was like,
early on.
Does that is that saying that he's on drugs the whole time too, and he's using as well? Like you've just said, the drug for her is him, and yeah, I don't know. Like it was
almost
interesting
to
choice.
me. It just felt like early on, especially, that he was just dirty and unshowered, and like he'd obviously doing physical work at work, and he was just this. Basically, like almost like a homeless dude. So I didn't think of it like that, but there's like definitely a bit of a connotation there. He says a line to Mo where, and this is where you understand where his head's at. He goes, "You could either, you know, have a great line in your high school yearbook, or nobody's ever going to fuck with you."
Yeah.
The idea of being a wrestler on a high school team or doing this underground wrestling. But in his head, like, nobody fucking with you in the streets is way more important than like this.
Because that's all he knows.
Exactly. So, and that's just where he's at. So, it was just really nice to see Mo eventually make the right choice, because it's set it up so well that this guy means the world to her and nothing else is going to matter. But they set up this great opportunity and she almost threw it away.
Have you got any other characters you'd like to talk about?
Well, I really liked Amari.
Sure.
So that was her best mate. And I was just so pleased with him being there from the very start. Because Mo had no friends that we knew about. But there was this kind, loyal Amari. And he never wavered on that. He saw this good in Mo because they obviously grew up together. And that relationship was really tested, and he was always there for her when he needed him.
100%. That's all I've got here. I've said a good friend who was always there for her.
And he knew the importance of being there for her, and that's what friends should do, right? When things get tough, you need to understand, shit, maybe they actually really do need me. And that's what this film
Yep.
did so much better than other films.
Yeah.
And that's similar with The Coach. Just that positive male influence. Different to Amari, he has this level of respect and he has more ability to spark change in her just because of his position and his age and his wisdom.
Yeah.
But these characters, along with Lucille, like you spoke about, those three characters, that's what was missing for me in these other films that just didn't have that positive influence anywhere. It gets too grim and too bleak otherwise.
I thought Malik was a really good influence on her as well. Like, you're talking about these characters that, it was obvious early on that he liked her. And, he bought her the shoes. It was sort of cute, but he did have a girlfriend.
That's where it doesn't fit in for me.
The tricky thing. So he did have this girlfriend, but I still thought that a lot of the stuff that he said, and like Mo as a character says at some stage, did the coach tell you to say this sort of thing? Like, he had a lot of these lines throughout that were really positive, like, as to, like, he's been working on wrestling a long time. He's got a lot of positives out of what's going on. So I still did see him as like a positive influence on her, even though he maybe did a bad thing. But everyone does bad things.
Yeah, no, he's almost like the leading by example thing, right? Because he's the representation of everything that she can get out of wrestling. And I think they have that conversation before they hook up about, like, yeah, I turned my back on all this, like, drugs and crime and all it. Like, it was around his world as well, and he turned his back on it because he could see a world out, and he's getting all these offers from colleges and that kind of stuff. And he was the first one that's like, man, you could kick ass in college. There's so many female wrestlers out there now, and rah rah rah. And that's when you start to realize, like, this is her ticket out of here.
Yep.
Like, a month ago, she was going nowhere and going nowhere fast, and it wasn't going to end well. And so he was that example, but that whole him cheating on his girlfriend with her and that complication that it brought up with him and the team, and Malik handled it like a champ. But I don't know why they had to make him have a girlfriend.
Yeah,
it's almost like another hurdle that she had to get over. That just kind of never really worked for me.
Fair. Last thing I've got here is to Brooklyn. I often do this with cities as characters. I thought there was a really good setup with, like, the streets, the music, the parks, the people hanging out on the roads. Just really set the scene really well.
Well, I think that's Brownsville specifically, and Olivia Newman talks about them filming in Brownsville and basically getting the entire town involved and getting a lot of extras there, using all their catering from in Brownsville and trying to make that town part of it. Exactly right, because this is a very Brownsville story. So I'm glad that came across.
Yeah. So we started talking about this. So Olivia Newman.
Yeah.
So first feature. Mm-hmm. I did not expect her to be white.
I didn't expect.
At all.
Yeah, I didn't expect her to be anything like what she was.
No.
Like, she's just like this budding film student at the time when she first did first match in this short, and even then she's just like, I didn't know anything about wrestling, but I kind of liked the idea of it, and I researched it a little bit, and it's like, wow, like, you can just really dedicate yourself to your craft, and here you go. I was exactly the same.
Yeah, and so the biggest thing she's gone on to do since this film is she's done 3 episodes of Chicago Fire.
Okay.
So that's yeah.
You know what? I can absolutely see her pulling out another writing directing credit at some point with something that she's brewing up,
and like, she's not going to be complaining about, like, if you can get on a TV show and the residuals she will get from directing a couple episodes of that will come in for the rest of her life. So that'll help hopefully build her up to do something else too.
Yeah, hopefully. No, this is a really nice first project for her.
What do you think about the cast?
Pretty excellent.
Yeah, I thought, like, Jharrel, Jerome, who played Amari,
yeah.
I love him. I don't know if you've seen the Netflix series called When They See Us, which is about the Central Park 5, those guys that were convicted of I don't know, I can't remember if she died, but of attacking this runner in Central Park. Okay. And he plays one of the kids in that, and he's amazing. And also Moonlight. Have you seen Moonlight?
I haven't yet. No, I know
we've got.
He hasn't had many acting credits either. He's only in like 4 or 5 things.
As soon as he was on the screen, I was like, oh, fantastic! I love him. He's so good.
Okay.
So good.
So he was good in this.
And Moonlight and When They See Us are. I love. I just love African American stories.
Maybe you do.
Man, like, he is fantastic.
That's very broad, though.
I've liked a lot of these Netflix.
I know. Yeah. There's more to it than the fact that it's African American. Is my point.
It's a human story, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Scenes. Time to talk about some scenes.
Yeah.
Give me some scenes that you liked in this one.
Well, I liked a lot of the wrestling stuff. The first wrestling training that she went to, I was watching it thinking, is she going to be any good? How are they going to treat her? This is a really nice sequence. Like, I was just like, wow, I'm in on this film. And then that sort of culminated with her doing that training in her bedroom and walking down the streets, doing all these moves. I just loved seeing her life have some direction and drive. And they built it up so seamlessly that it felt really real. Nothing was forced in this.
Yeah.
And then obviously her first wrestling match, I was still just riding every moment with her. And I loved seeing her dad come in and her dad riding every step as well. That's what I mean. Like this, he was still genuine in that sense. You can't fake that, wanting to see your daughter succeed. So, skipping ahead a fair bit is when she was in that UFC type underground fight.
Yep.
She was getting her ass kicked, and she started wooing, doing like that. The team
woo, yeah.
woo. And that was that idea of team that had come through in her, and that's her leaning on all she knows is this team spirit to get her through. That was pretty cool, and that could have come off as really corny,
but it didn't. No.
And then I mentioned this when you said it as an added scene in the film. I really liked it when she went and hugged her dad, because obviously there was this huge element of letting go and moving on, but also this human component. Like, regardless of her recognizing him as a bad influence or not, she still didn't hate him, and she probably never will hate him. Like, you don't... it would have been too cliche if she just had to turn around and go, oh, actually, I hate this man. Because she was obsessed with him for 16 years. And that was just a really human way to approach that situation and still really show strength. So that was just probably the best scene in the film for me. I'm glad they added it in.
They're good scenes. They're good scenes.
What do you got?
Mine are like these little bits and pieces. They're not necessarily scenes, but things that's maybe like... you see them early and they make a connection to them throughout. Mm-hmm. So the nails and the nail polish, I really enjoyed the dad, like there's this big point about her doing them, and then she got the money from the hustle almost to do it, and then the dad's like, if you're going to wrestle, you got to get rid of them, and she gets rid of them, and then the foster carer at the end helps her do them again. I just like this connection of these little things.
She's still a 16-year-old girl,
Mo's eyes, like, they told the story so much throughout this film. And in particular, the first time she goes to watch one of these underground matches, her eyes literally just told the whole story. Like, they just told the story for me about... She's like, whoa, what is this?
Exactly what you were probably thinking as well.
Yeah.
Great performance from Elvire Emmanuel as well.
Fantastic.
Really good performance.
Like I said before, I really enjoyed all the scenes with the foster carer. I just thought she was amazing. There's a scene where Amari is hugging and looking after Mo when she's had the absolute living daylights kicked out of her. And then for her to sort of wake up on this blurry sort of like out of focused shot where the whole team's there.
Yeah.
That was really nice. It was just nice. Towards the end too, Mo has this chat with the coach, and she does this nice little spiel where she speaks about, she thought she was lucky because she had a dad, and most of her friends didn't know their dad. So she thought she was lucky.
Which is well justified,
yeah. And then she goes on and tells this scooter story where the dad comes home with a scooter, and then, after a little bit, she's out there and realizes it's got the initials of another kid. So dad's nicked it from someone else to give to her. And, and I just like the response from the coach where he's like, you are not responsible for your father. Like, that is not, so I liked that.
And this was a girl, as you said before, was always going to go into bat for him. Yep, always.
And then the follow-on from that is where Mo apologizes to her carer and says, you're the only one that's never kicked me out of home, and gives her the earrings back. And that's another connection from early on where you see her nick those earrings.
Do we see her nick them?
Yeah, she takes them out of the drawer and puts them in. Yeah.
I forgot.
So that was another nice connection. And like you mentioned too, I liked that she helped when the little kid that she thought was going to be her adoptive kid is sort of taken back by the mother. I liked that she helped and then held hands.
That was sad. And what's funny is that the idea when the real mother was there, and then this is earlier on, and Mo's like, you should be happy. She should be with her real parent, because that is what is going on in her head. She's like, I need to be with my dad.
Yep.
And then she, changes it around and go, maybe blood's not everything. Maybe it's who's actually going to care for you.
And same, I liked that where she walked off on the dad at the end. That was nice. Won't elaborate. We've already spoken about.
But at least she went back to him, and like it felt real.
Yeah. All right. What are some things that you didn't necessarily like?
No, not too much, but
Yeah.
when he first took her to the underground wrestling, I just didn't want the story to go down that direction. But his bad parenting was really bubbling on the surface. He hadn't really fucked up at that point.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, this is not going good. And I'm like, Mo, be strong. In my head, I'm seriously just like, Mo, be strong. Like, you've learnt so much. Don't let that go to waste. And I mean, that's a movie, right? Like, she had to have that next little bit. But I didn't like that initially. I didn't want to go down that route. And the only other
into the character.
I was in like, yeah, and she'd done such a good job to get where she got to. I wanted to go to college, man. And the scene where she hooked up with Malik. Just didn't. I don't know. I just wish she didn't have a girlfriend. Maybe that would have been fine, because there were no real repercussions that came from it that we saw either. It just kind of made this extra stumbling block that.
Yeah, I've got that as well. Like, when the girlfriend walks in and then she sort of storms out, and there was like some side comment where someone's like, "Oh, you know she's pregnant." And
that's right.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
I was like, "Is that really relevant?" Like, yeah, I agree. That was just sort of chucked in there.
Yeah, it was, and it didn't work. So we could have done without that.
Yep.
I would have rewritten that character and that little bit, and because then the movie kind of ended, and it wasn't. It was still like, oh, Malik, still a good dude. Still,
are they over him and the girlfriend?
Yeah,
so there's that opportunity for them to get together. I don't know.
And let's be honest, this movie wasn't about Mo finding love, but
yeah,
it just didn't. That whole bit didn't work.
Sure.
Is that all you got?
Oh, have you?
That was my last one. Yeah. Sorry.
There was a scene where like Amari, and this happens a bit, where Amari and Mo talk about when they were younger and things they did, and they talk about like Happy Meals and the toys and all that sort of stuff. And there was one scene where they're talking about Mater from Cars being shit, and I was just like, it was weird for me because I was like, they don't represent to me the age group that know Cars. It just was really off-putting for me that they were talking about Mater as a character from Cars.
What year's Cars?
The original was like 2005, 2003, 2005, 2006, around that time.
Oh, the perfect hitting zone, because they're 16 now, and that was in 2018. So that was
12
I don't know. So they would have been like 5.
It felt weird. I don't know. It just felt really off for me. I don't know why. Like I was like, oh, I found it hard.
Okay.
I know you like. I didn't really like the training and the wrestling montages.
Didn't you?
Yeah, it wasn't a massive fan.
Sports stuff got me in this.
Yeah, I wasn't a massive fan of those. And the last thing was that fight at the end where her and this other chick go at it.
Brutal.
It was just really hard to watch.
Yeah.
It was really hard to watch.
I was surprised they made Mo win. I didn't see that coming, to be honest.
I didn't see it coming either, and then they didn't actually. She didn't get her victory. She didn't get that victory, that feel of victory either. So that was a bit annoying too. But yeah, all right. Well, time to talk about some themes, some ideas. What was this film trying to say?
Well, I think, as I said, the sports and the team stuff really spoke to me, and it's that idea of that sense of belonging and being part of something, and that in turn kind of gives you an excuse to have direction and drive in your life. And any excuse that you can find that's going to give you that, find it, use it, do whatever you can to keep it, because a life without drive is going to whittle away very quickly. So
yeah, good.
They were probably the two main things that I liked. And obviously this idea about family and what's family and is family everything, because it's not.
Yeah, agree. So Roxanne, which we did 2 weeks ago, it's a similar sort of thing with men in this, in the men in, or the adult men are sort of letting down the younger female characters in this. It was disappointing, like, except for like, I know that the coach and the coach was good, correct, but the dad, or the dad character, I don't know, I was just like, it's two movies in a row. Yeah, but that's where this film separates itself, because you thought that the dad was not as. But it's not even that. Like, the dad absolutely let it down, and I can see the connection you're making with that. But because the coach was there, and because Lucilla was there, and because Amari was there, she had more support. The support was there, right? And it just becomes more bearable. And we still watch movies a lot of the time at the end of the day for enjoyment, and it helps with that level, right? And it sort of highlights too, like, the courage, the resilience. She was indestructible. Nothing was going to stop her, and she would fight. She went through a lot. She went through a lot, and she the end of the film has tears rolling down her face, but then she joins in that chant with the rest of the crew, so you know she's going to be okay. She's going to get through this and give it a crack, which I liked. That's nice. And the last thing too, like, there's a little bit about second chances. and this was perfect through the coach's words. He said, "There's no such thing as losing. It's just winning and learning."
Yep.
And the
Love
dad
that
had used up all his chances, so he was gone by the end. And this is like,
but you know why? Because he wasn't learning either.
Correct.
He wasn't changing his
and we
ways.
know Mo's learnt, so she's ready to.
When you learn, you do things differently, right? Fail fast.
Good.
It's funny when I think about those the character, like the coach, Amari, and Lucilla. That's three really strong characters of support for her. You take either one of them out, and I think it doesn't work for her. Like, Amari's obviously there from the start, and without him, who God knows where she is. The coach comes in as a really important guidance for her, and sort of helps her stay on track when probably no one else was really bothering to put her there. And then Lucilla, almost at the time of, I've got nothing left, I don't know where else to go, she's there for her. Like, that's how fickle it can be, right? You could have one or two people there for you, and that's still not enough. So I like the fact that they're all just as important as each other, and they all work in tandem.
What did you think of that scene with the dad, Jharrel, and the coach? It was a little bit awkward. Like, it was almost as if like they wanted you to think the dad probably wasn't as good a wrestler as he'd made out.
Yeah, potentially that, but also just maybe that. Like, that was just like a classic coach-dad conversation, and this guy's like, I'm not that kind of dad. Like, and he said, like, we're going for lunch. Like, which most dads of a 16-year-old in that situation probably would, especially someone who's got a wrestling background. Yeah, it was jarring though, wasn't it? And I don't know. I get the feeling that he was a good wrestler because he was a good coach, and it's fair to say that he probably wasn't lying about those results that he had, and but it was just a good example of, I don't want to be this kind of dad.
What did you take away from this film? What are some things that you've taken from this?
Well, I've harped on it, but this is a great example of how you can make these bleak films about the projects and films about, rising from nothing. And I understand that bleak part of the story still needs to be told. And within that story, maybe there's something positive that we can grab onto that I haven't been able to grab onto in other films. But introducing a positive character, specifically like Amari, straight away just helped me get into this film from the fifth minute sort of thing.
I've got a similar take, a little bit different though, because we're up to 76 films from Netflix, and I was like, I want to go back and I want to have a look at the black representation that we've had in these films, and I want to sort of take my hat off a bit to Netflix, because there are a bunch of films that I would never have seen, would never have touched, would never have even known existed, that I've been able to watch by doing this. And out of 70, so I went down and wrote down the strong black character films that we've looked at during this. So we had Barry, we had Imperial Dreams, we had Burning Sands, Deidre and Lainey Rob a Train, The Incredible Jessica James, Naked, Stepsisters, and Roxanne, as well as this.
It's a great call.
Like, there are not a lot of film studios, and Netflix has that percentage of films where they are showing a good range of stories.
It's really, really good point.
So I just wanted to sort of put that out there and be like, that's impressive to me.
You know what? Also, to that point as well, which is a negative for this film, I actually feel like this is the sort of film that can get lost on a streaming service, though. Without any real chatter about it, it's easy to bypass, and I think we've seen that with the numbers. So let's look at a film like Moonlight, for example. And if Moonlight doesn't get the critical reception that it got, then it disappears, doesn't make money at the box office, all that kind of stuff. And similarly, if this film released at cinemas and didn't get good reception, it would go nowhere as well. But I feel like this is the kind of film that if it had released at cinemas and a few people had got behind it, it could have had a real life. Whereas on the flip side, you sit there and go, but it's great that it's accessible for everybody. I just feel like it can also just slip away into an abundance of streaming that, I could watch this, or I could watch anything else.
It's probably not going to pop up on anyone's recommended list, because it's probably, it's so deep. And
I would recommend this film. Like, I'd recommend it as a sports film with like this poverty-stricken, negative, influencing family component at its core. And it's not for everyone, but it's pretty accessible to watch, right? Like, it's not like it's... You don't have to dig too deep to get into this one.
The other thing that I thought was the camera work in this through the wrestling and stuff, these over-the-shoulder shots of Mo throughout were really good and really helped with this storytelling. So you made that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She took Olivia Newman did a real good job with the wrestling. She took her time. She got the right people. I believe she even they had real wrestling trainers, but I think she even spoke to the guys who trained Mark Ruffalo and Channing Tatum in Foxcatcher.
Ah, cool.
Because she was kind of like, how long do I need to train all these people, or should I get real wrestlers and that kind of stuff? But she put the work in, and the wrestling holds up.
Yeah, definitely. So we sometimes go on IMDb to check out actors, actresses, look something up. Did you jump on?
I did.
Yes. What did you find?
So I do like jumping on IMDb when we watch a movie. But I did it for Jharrel, the dad. So it's Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. He's Russell, which is Adelaide's dad in Us.
Correct.
And he's also in Black Mirror Striking Vipers, which I've actually only seen 20 minutes of. I started watching it like 6 months ago, and I'm like, I'll watch it. I'll finish it tomorrow night. And there was just never that craving to get back into it.
You need to watch the last 20 minutes.
Do I?
It turns.
Yeah, well, I could sort of see the direction it was going.
It turns. Like, yeah. Well,
I'll watch it. Okay.
I looked him up as well, and I was like, okay, I've seen this.
He's
guy
super recognizable, isn't he?
Much,
so he is the epitome of why we have this section about IMDb being someone.
So straight, like first one was like, okay, yep, from Striking Vipers.
Yeah.
You need to watch the last 20 minutes.
Okay.
Aquaman. Have you seen Aquaman?
I haven't. No, I haven't seen it.
He is the bad guy in Aquaman. Like I was like, oh yeah, I recognize you straight away. And then obviously Us as well. And the last one I was like, he played this comedic role in Baywatch with The Rock.
Okay.
And I was like, he's been in, like, and I've watched all of these.
He's been in some big things
like this year. So yeah, I've seen him quite a lot on the screen this year.
It's the rise of Yahya.
I also looked up the coach, Colman Domingo.
So did I.
Yeah.
And I had nothing.
You had nothing? I had 2 things.
What?
No, 3 things. And
I looked really closely.
These are 3 films that I love as well.
Okay.
And they are black films too.
Obviously.
Selma. He's one of Martin Luther King's pump men throughout that film. That film is amazing.
Yep.
Directed by Ava DuVernay, who did that show that I was talking about before. Central Park 5. If Beale Street Could Talk.
Okay, yep.
In that is another fantastic film. Highly recommend. And he's in The Butler as well, which is like sort of a massive cast, it's about the butler in the White House. And he's in that as well. Great film.
Okay.
Goes through all the presidents that have been through the White House, and the sort of like tells the story of the world of what's happening through the butler's eyes by watching the president.
That's cool.
3 really good films. And I was like, oh, you are like, these 2 guys, I was like, sitting there going, I need to know what I've seen you in. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Question time. Got anything you want to ask?
Oh, you won't know the answer to it, but it just struck me as weird. Do they not actually have a girls' wrestling team at high school?
Yes, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking the whole time. And I was glad when they started to reference college, saying, "Oh yeah, you can get wrestling scholarship in college as a female." But I was like, why does she have to wrestle with the guys? It's just got to be female. Like, how do you get into college as a wrestler if you're not doing it at high school?
High school, yeah.
I don't know.
It's a good question.
It didn't make sense.
And you didn't see any female wrestlers on any other schools either, did you?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So
how many spots are at college? Surely she's a shoo-in.
That's what the whole thing I was thinking. But how do you know if you're any good until you get to college? But then maybe other schools do, and this is like a small school and a small, sort of area. And
true.
So I can let that go, but it did bother me, and I'm glad they referenced female wrestling at college, because or else it would have been like, no, you need to bring this up, please, because this doesn't feel right.
This is one thing. So when I watched the short film of this,
yeah.
The wrestlers in it had a lot of Under Armour gear. And then in this one, there was Nike gear left, right, and centre.
Okay.
So I don't have any, but I was like, I'm wondering, surely you get Nike to donate that stuff.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
If not, they bought it in bulk and it was cheaper to do it that way.
But you still have to get permission to use the logo on the screen?
You would, yeah.
So yeah, I
hope that they donated it.
You'd hope so. That'd be nice. One other one. Do you reckon the dad, Jharrel, do you reckon he ever intended on actually buying that car wash? Was that an actual dream that he had, or was that just a false sense of security so that he could keep the good times rolling?
I think it was a pipe dream. So I think it was sincere in its where it was actually conceived.
In jail with a mate.
I think that was true, but I think he never really put it into action. He was never really close to doing it.
Yep, I agree. All right. think we're almost ready to
I think so.
put this all together. So at the end of our show, we give the film a rating out of 5 and work it out as an average for Flicks Forum. MJ, what are you thinking about this one?
I thought it was a good movie, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. There was great character development. I love the use of a sporting team to build that sense of purpose, drive, and belonging. And there are enough positive influences to break through the bleakness of a ghetto project's vibe. It's a 3 from me, but it's a high 3.
Okay, very nice. Like I said at the start, I struggled with this a little bit, and I don't know why, because I did like it, and I enjoyed it, and I thought the performances were good, the story was nice. But yeah,
And we didn't uncover it.
No.
Okay.
I still don't know why. There was a part of me that was just like, I don't know. Maybe it was just too real. That could be it. I don't know. But I thought the performances in this were fantastic, especially Mo, played by Elvire Emmanuel. I don't know her from anything else, and she stood out in this. And
so I think this was her first feature. She had a theatre background.
She was awesome. Like, I would love to see her in more stuff. And I mentioned it too, through her eyes. Like, her eyes were just so good, and that's a bit of the camera work too, but obviously that helped tell that story, and I felt for this character, and I too am giving it a 3 out of 5. So that one's an easy one to work out.
I kind of wish I was toying a 3.5, and it's close. It's bloody close. It's a good 3.
Yeah, it's worth watching.
It is worth watching.
Recommend.
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's a good movie.
So, we're on social media.
We are.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Flicks Forum.
Yes.
You can find us at any of those places.
You can.
We are on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe if you can, so you get our episode in your feed every week.
You don't have to search for us every week. We're just there. We just pop up.
Yeah, we have a question or a theme that we'd like you to answer on our social media post for the week. And this one, I was annoyed straight up because you answered this literally in the first 10 seconds of us talking.
Is this a sports film?
Yeah, is this a sports film? So
yeah, we didn't even get to the fast flicks before I said that.
Nah, so is this a sports film?
I think it is.
Good.
Do you?
No.
Cool. Because you didn't like their wrestling.
No.
Maybe that's what you didn't like about it.
That was a side thing.
You know how you said there was something that you couldn't get into?
Be it.
It was a side thing, but that was the reason that it gave her drive and
yeah, I get that, but the drive was the connection with the teammates, not with her actually being on the
teammates is part of the sport.
Yeah,
so it's one and the same.
Yeah, good. Maybe you've worked it out in our closing comments that what just didn't sit right.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so we're back again next week.
We are. What do we got next week?
This time we have a romantic comedy.
Cool. I'm alright with that.
From 2018. It's called Happy Anniversary.
Oh, nice.
It's directed by Jared Stern, and this has a really big cast, and I had to cut this down, and I've still got a big list.
Well, it's always hard when you haven't seen the film and you don't know how important they are.
I don't know how important they are. So we've got Noel Wells, Ben Swartz, Jeff Grace, Rahul Kohli, Kristen Bauer Van Stratten. I don't know if that's relation to Van Stratten. Do we have a Van Stratten somewhere? In one of the films?
Don't know.
Was it Van Patten?
Van Patten. Yeah, Grace Van Patten.
Kate Bertland, Leonardo Nam, David Walton, Isadora Grisha, Annie Potts, and Joe Pantoliano. Have you heard of any of them?
I know
Annie Potts.
I know Ben Schwartz.
Ben
Schwartz is in Parks and Rec.
Okay. Well, yeah. And I was like, Rahul Kohli, and I was like, Kohli? Like cricket?
Rahul Dravid and Virat Kohli.
Combine them together. So that's what we've got next week.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it. I like romantic comedies.
I feel like this week's going to take forever because I want to watch this one. It could be a long break between drinks.
Well, we deserve breaks because we're still recovering from Podmas and
correct
the effort we put into this wonderful podcast. But happy anniversary will be good fun. And first match was great.
Good. It's been good to see you.
You too, mate. I will see you, and as you will all hear us
next week.
Next week.
All right. Ciao.
Bye.